The Ballad of the Archer and the Fox, a short children's story by Ariel. Once upon a time, there was a young archer who lived in the woods with his mother and his younger sister. He had black hair, light skin, and green eyes. Every day he would head into the woods to find meat for supper. He would fetch fish from the water and pheasant from the wood, and when sunset had come, he would bring them home to his mother. One day before he left, his mother stopped him and asked, "My dear son, could you please bring me back some raspberries from the other side of the wood?" The archer smiled and told her, "Of course, mother, I will be back before supper." He then set out into the woods. The archer traveled for hours but had no luck. He could not find the raspberries that his mother asked for. Where could they be, he pondered. He was about to turn back when he heard singing in the distance. He couldn't help but move towards the enchanting voice. He soon arrived at a magnificent blooming magnolia tree, but the tree's beauty was not what had taken his breath away, but the beautiful maiden sitting on a branch. She had long pink hair that wrapped around the branches around her, fair skin that glistened in the evening sun, plump lips as red as roses, and golden eyes that shone brighter than a diamond. She looked to be no older than 18. She looked at him as she stopped singing and gasped from fright. Her form shifted to a unique rose-pink fox that hid away in the branches, watching him. The archer carefully stepped forward and called out, "Wait, I do not wish to harm you." The fox watched him from her hiding place before hiding behind the tree and shifting back into the woman again. She carefully peeked out from behind the tree. "Who are you?" she asked. The archer stepped forward. "My name is Jasper. Who are you?" he asked. The maiden smiled at the archer. "I am Evangeline, the protector of the forest." "How did you find my tree?" she asked. Jasper smiled at her. "I had come to pick raspberries for my mother while hunting for dinner," he answered. Evangeline smiled once again. "And you could not find them?" she asked. Jasper nodded with a flustered smile. "No, I could not," he answered. Evangeline smiled and waved her hand. A raspberry bush grew across from where Jasper stood. He was shocked to see how fast it had grown and looked at the Fae. She wore a gentle smile. "How did you do that?" he asked. Evangeline smiled. "I am a part of the Fae. My magic is connected to the forest," she answered, as she slid her hand over a magnolia blossom that was attached to one of the hanging branches. The blossom bloomed from her touch. "You're a human?" she asked, looking at him. "Yes, I am." "I will admit you are quite handsome for a human," she admitted. "Thank you. You are very beautiful," Jasper told her. Evangeline blushed and looked down to the ground where the bottom of the hem of her white dress rested. "If only I could leave the forest, then I could see you again." "You can't leave the forest?" Jasper asked, his voice curious. Evangeline nodded. "No, I am bound to this forest. If I leave, I will die," she told him with a heartbroken expression. "Well, maybe I can visit you." Evangeline's golden eyes lit up with excitement. "You would do that for me?" she asked. Jasper nodded. "Of course, I will come back tomorrow," he promised. Evangeline smiled, causing the flora around her to bloom. Jasper smiled and picked some of the raspberries before leaving the forest spirit. Both were excited to meet each other the following day. They met every day for a year. They would talk. Jasper would read to Evangeline, and sometimes they would dance in the moonlight. Their friendship soon turned into a budding romance. One day, when Jasper had come to see his love, he saw an evil sorcerer talking to the Fae at her tree. "Be mine, maiden of the forest," the sorcerer demanded. "I will give you wealth, power, and the freedom of the world." But Evangeline only shook her head. "My heart belongs to another, and I would rather remain bound to this forest forever than live 1,000 lifetimes beside you." The sorcerer cackled and shouted, "Then I will force you to come with me." With a wave of his hand, the winds came and stole away Evangeline from her tree. The sorcerer turned to Jasper and vanished. Evangeline! Jasper shouted. He had to save his love. Jasper immediately left on his horse. On his journey, he came across a giant fish that blocked the river. He took out his bow. Please spare me, young archer. If you help me, I will help you. Jasper spared the fish. Next, he came across a fearsome black bear who blocked his path. He once again took out his bow. Please spare me, young archer. If you help me, I will help you. Jasper spared the bear. Finally, he came across an intimidating hawk. He took out his bow. Please spare me, young archer. If you help me, I will help you. Jasper spared the hawk. Jasper soon arrived at the sorcerer's palace. He walked into the throne room to find a horrible sight. Evangeline was asleep on a bed made of sharp thorns, on her head a crown of thorns. Her once vibrant pink hair had darkened to a muddy brown color, and her skin had turned paler than normal. She looked dead. Additionally, her once white gown had been changed to a blue gown with different gold embellishments. Jasper ran to the bed and took his love's cold hand into his own. He had no idea if she was alive or not, but he did not have the time to question as he was attacked by the sorcerer, who had appeared out of nowhere. Jasper and the sorcerer fought inside the throne room before the evil sorcerer transformed into a hideous dragon. Jasper fought hard, but he was losing. Suddenly, the fish from before jumped from the river and spit water at the dragon, blinding it. Then, the black bear from before came and clawed at its wings, causing it to fall. Finally, the hawk from before came and dropped Jasper's sword in his hands. The fight continued until Jasper managed to knock the dragon down. He walked towards the dragon and shouted, "Your time of tyranny ends now!" With one fell swing of his sword, he cut the dragon's head off. Afterwards, he thrust his sword away and ran to the throne room. He could only hope he wasn't too late as he approached Evangeline's side. He prayed that she would be all right, but she wouldn't wake up. He dropped to his knees and pressed a kiss to Evangeline's cold hand. He stayed there for hours. When the sun was all but set, he stood up and looked at the love of his life one last time. He shook his head and leaned down, gently kissing her on the lips. When he pulled away, he was met with a wonderful sight. It was Evangeline. Her eyes fluttered open as she let out a gasp. It was at that moment that her hair lightened to its natural pink shade, and her eyes glowed brighter than before. She was alive. She smiled at him as he picked her up and kissed her. When they pulled away, Evangeline smiled even more and claimed, "You saved me." Afterwards, they left the palace and returned to Evangeline's forest where her animals had been waiting for her. But this time, something was different. Evangeline's bond to the forest had been broken. She was free to live her life as she chose. The happy couple were married in a grand celebration in the forest that Evangeline had once called home, and they lived happily ever after. The end.